I was sitting in 2004 in a jail cell when a client of mine, I was no longer the county attorney, and I was defending, and my client had just been given a life sentence, and I was burned out. I was jaded. I had had enough, and I left, and my wife and 6 children and I volunteered with the American Bar Association to go to Kiev, Ukraine, to help the Ukrainian government reform its criminal justice system. And that's truly where I began to really love America and our freedom. Because when I got to Ukraine in November of 2004, 10 days before the Ukrainian Orange Revolution of 2004. In the Ukrainian Orange Revolution, there was a transformative leader in that country named Viktor Yushchenko, who had been a very popular central bank president and a very popular prime minister, but he could no longer abide by the communist regime, and so he resigned. He left the government and became the opposition candidate against the government. Well, the government did what the government does well over there, and they tried to eliminate him, and they poisoned him. And he went from looking like kind of like a Ukrainian Cary Grant, like he looks on, right here, to being completely swollen and ashen and pockmarked and disfigured because of the dioxin poisoning that they had, with which they had poisoned him, and he was nearly dead. And the government allowed the election to come, to occur, but the government rigged the results of the election. I mean, there were parts of the country that were more favorable to the government that had 103% voter turnout, and their candidate got 98% of the vote. I mean, it was that kind of egregiousness, where everyone knew that the government had rigged the election, and we were there with our 6 kids. Our oldest was 14 and our youngest was 3. And our eyes were about this big around as we saw society begin to unravel. And we saw for the first time what someone truly will do for freedom. And Victor, the disfigured guy, he went down to the center square, and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we all know why this has happened. We've had our independence from the Soviet Union since, for the last 13 years, but we've never had our freedom. And I'm not going to leave this spot until my country recognizes me as the president of Ukraine. And I'm calling on my countrymen to come to the square right now." And suddenly, it was just mind-blowing. Overnight there were 30 or 40,000 people in the square, and within a week there were 500,000 people in the square. Well, the government freaked out about it as well, and they cut off the traffic to the cities. They cut off bus traffic and rail traffic, and and suddenly, it was November in Ukraine, and the snow was getting deeper, and the crowds were diminishing. And every day I'd walk from our apartment over to my office and just think, how in the world is this thing ever going to change? These people are done. And then there was a woman that was in this little, this crowd of people, whose name was Natalia Dmitrik. And she was a 48-year-old sign language translator who was signing the fabricated newscasts. And she would protest for the Orange Revolution, which was Victor's campaign color, by day. And by night, she would go fabricate the newscast. Well, she went in, she said one day she woke up, she said, "I just felt dirty. I can no longer abide by this." And she knew what she had to do. And she went into the newscast. She tied an orange ribbon around her wrist. hid it in her sleeve. And when she started to translate, she stuck her arms out, the orange ribbon drops down, and she starts to sign. And she says, "I'm sorry to tell you that I have been translating lies. I'm speaking to the deaf of Ukraine. Our country is indeed in revolution. Viktor Yushchenko is our president. Please come to the Capitol. We need everyone here now." And then she said, "I don't know if you'll ever see me again." Well, thankfully, no one had even known what she had done. And she left the newscast and left. And then she came back the next day. And so she did the same thing again. This time, everyone knew. And when she left the newsroom, everyone embraced her because she had had the courage to do what nobody else had. And at that point, it's like the doors fell off of Ukraine. Within about 10 days, there were 2 million people in that square. 2 million people. And they stayed there for six weeks. And, it was unbelievable it was just unbelievable to see. You'll see there a much younger me just over my shoulder. It was in that spot in that square that I understood my duty as an American. That my duty as an American isn't to reform the criminal justice system. My duty as an American is to do everything in my power to reform the criminal justice system and let whatever multiplication power take place after that. And so that's why I'm running for Attorney General. I don't need to be the Attorney General. Very, very happy doing what I'm doing. But you know what? We need leadership and change at that level. And just as Natalia Dimitruk just simply did what she did and did what she could do, every one of us has that ability to do what we can do. And if we truly want to save our republic, we will recognize the truth of what John Adams said so many years ago, when he said that representative government and trial by jury are the heart and lungs of liberty. Without them, we have no other fortification against being ridden like horses, worked like cattle, fed and clothed like swine and hounds. We owe it to those who have gone before us, and we owe it to those who will come after us to do what we can to maintain American freedom.